Hello, 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 my design enthusiasts, and welcome to the one, the only, the Level Design Lobby. So, party people, thank you for joining me, your host, Max Pears, to the second episode of the Level Design Lobby. And I hope when you're listening to this, you're having a great morning, day, evening, or night time. And yeah, you're just enjoying yourself playing the games or making the games that you love. So yeah, this is the second episode of the Level Design Lobby. And I'm really excited about this one because we've got a super cool topic and we've got an even cool example, an even cooler example to help me reinforce the point that I'm trying to talk about. And today's topic is exploration and level design and how perspective increases that feeling to explore, that helps reveal more and makes the player want to explore your levels and areas. So the game I'm going to be talking about to help put across my point is the video game Rime. Now, during the time of me recording this podcast, Rime came out about 1 or 2 weeks ago, and I'm very close to completing it. Near the end now. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a very, very good game. So if you haven't played it yet, then there are some small spoilers here. I'm not going to be talking about story so much, but more about the areas that the player's going to visit. Now, if you don't want anything revealed, then you may want to come back to this after playing this game, because, like I said, I'm going to be breaking down a few things. So, another quick side note on this one is I know a few of the developers who've worked on this game. It's created by Tequila Works, who did a fantastic job in my opinion. But this is not a paid endorsement or anything. Just want to give transparency on all this stuff. So yeah, let's go into Rime for a bit then. I just want to give, in case you don't know what it is, just give a brief summary of what it's about. So it's heavily inspired by games such as Journey, Ico, and The Last Guardian. It's a puzzle platformer where you have to make your way through an unknown land to escape or find yourself. So to give a brief story, the player takes on the role of a boy who's washed up on this island and he doesn't know why he's there, and he's trying to figure out how to escape and also discover the secrets of the island along the way. As I mentioned, it takes a lot of inspiration in how it tells the story from games like Journey and Abzu. It's all through the environmental storytelling, murals on the wall, and this sort of thing to help build a conversation so it doesn't tell you directly what's going on, but it gives you enough clues for the players to piece together what's going on. It's really refreshing in terms of gameplay because you don't have to shoot or kill anyone. And I'm not saying there's anything bad against those games. It's just nice to take a step back and a breather from those games. So that's what we're going to move on to. Oh, this is one thing. It's not on the main topic of exploration and level design, but it's a really cool detail that the developers did, and I have to give a big I have to draw attention to this because I think it's really clever. So in this game, you travel to multiple worlds on this island. So a desert one, a more sort of forest swamp one. And on the main menu, it reflects that. So if you're in the desert one, the background of the main menu changes to the desert layout. If you're in the swampy kind of more foresty one, then the background changes to that. And you'll have sometimes different characters and the music reflecting those areas, which again is a small detail, but if you've read any of my work before, I'm super, super into the main menu playing a big part into the video games the video game's overall experience. Because to me, it is the first thing you see and it's the first time you get to make an impression on the player. And the fact they keep it new and show your progress through the main menu, it just excites you as a player and you're like, oh, that's where I am. I want to keep going to see what happens when I get even further. So a big shout out to, again, the team at Tequila Works for doing a fantastic job with that. I absolutely loved it. But right, let's get on to the main topic. Like I said, is about exploration and how perspective in level design increases the form of exploration. So, as I mentioned earlier, the player takes on the role of a lost boy who's come across onto this island. And what Tequila Works have done well is they've made these hub worlds. It's not the overall experience is to get from A to B, like anything. But there's a great quote. I can't remember who said it, but described the overall meaning of level design. And that quote is, moving the player throughout your level from A to B without them even realizing that you are leading them there. And Rime does this really well, in my opinion, because as I said, you're lost, you don't know what's going on, and the mood they've created reflects this because they use hub worlds. Now, hub worlds are like open spaces, but they're not as big as open worlds, but big enough to hold secrets, collectibles, and give space for exploration. Now, this already is a super smart move by Tequila Works here, because what they've done is they've made an area to reflect the feeling of what the character is feeling. If they made a corridor level, you wouldn't want to explore, you wouldn't have the opportunity to explore, and it just wouldn't feel right. But by making the choice of selecting hub world levels, it allows the mood of the character to match the one of the player. So they can now go around and explore all these spaces without actually, unless they want to, go and do the main objectives. They can go off, they see something cool, and they go do their own thing. And that is one of the reasons on how they increase exploration, by giving the space to the player, by allowing them to have options to move freely around these hub spaces. Now, one of the things they do to break further into more detail about these hub spaces is they have dead ends. And I know what you're thinking, because normally in level design, people aren't a fan of dead ends. You have to do a 180 turn yourself and you have to backtrack, and players normally feel like they've wasted their time. But in this, what I think is really clever is they do have dead ends. And what they do with their dead ends, though, is clever. Because the art style is superb, it is definitely one of the best looking games of this year, and I imagine it's going to be taking many awards for art style when it comes to the award season this year. But what it does is, because the world is so pretty and there's quite a lot of life and there's a lot of mystery around this world, is that even if you find a dead end, you're not really that annoyed, because you still had that experience. And we've all been out on our own adventures somewhere in this world, like going to, for example, in England, we have places called the Lake Districts and the Peak District, which are these massive open spaces with loads of Mother Nature, and you just sometimes go off the beaten path and you just go into a dead end and turn back on yourself. But because the experience of getting there was so exciting, and finding these new cool things like these different types of trees or how it looked in the sun, that's a reward in itself. And that's what Rime just truly gets right with the exploration, is even the dead ends feel great, because the overall experience of the player, you clambering up and moving through that space, that works well. So if you're doing dead ends, then make sure it's exciting to get there visually and with gameplay, such as the way that you do a different movement and locomotion with climbing, running, jumping, these sort of mechanics. So even having dead ends works, because you still find things, but it's just not related to the goal, but still the overall experience is fantastic for that. So that's one of the ways to increase exploration, is one, giving the space, and two, the reward is the exploration itself. So, have those collectibles and that, but make exploration feel good, make it look fantastic. Those are two ways to increase exploration. So now on to, I just want to give an example as we move on with this one. It's the way that they reveal locations. So an example is when you first arrive and you first start the game, is you land on this beach, and then you make your way up this cliffside. And what they do when you come up this cliffside is they enclose you. You've gone from this massive open beach, which looks fantastic, to now this tight, narrow space, very claustrophobic. And so when you come out of it, it opens up and reveals the rest of the island, and it looks fantastic, and you do have that moment of wow. It's because it's beautiful and it feels bigger. Now, one of the techniques they did it is just what I said, is the space leading to the big space, they enclose it, they make it feel tighter, only because when you have a technique like that, it makes something feel even grander. Think about how you enter your space is what I'm trying to say here. If you want something to feel bigger, make the thing leading... stumbling my words. Make the path leading to that space even smaller, because it contrasts with the next space and increases that feeling of big open space. But that's it. Is they use that technique. Now, it's not something new that they've done. It's a very common thing. It's done in architecture as well. I don't know if anyone's ever been on the London Underground. What you'll find is they use this very similar thing. If you get off at Piccadilly Circus, you're very tight with the tunnels leading up to the actual square, main square there. And because it's so tight and the door you come out of is very narrow, and because it's packed with people, when you get out there, it looks even grander. You get that breath of fresh air coming in through your lungs as well. And that's just one way to do it as well, is that technique. You know, they've taken it from architecture. Other great games have used it as well, but they use it, and they use it extremely well here as well. So think about that. So we have the space to explore, the rewarding exploration in its own way, and the third point just made there is trying to sum this up. The third point is how you reach the space, how you enter it. Okay. The next point I want to talk about is perspective. Okay. So this one's really cool, and they do this technique a lot here, and I think it's fantastic. Honestly, after playing this game, this is why I wanted to talk about it, because they're one of the best examples with perspective, in my opinion. So one of the things you have to do in the first area is you have to activate these 3 statues to unlock a door. And to activate them, you have to shout into these 3 orbs, which will then activate the statue and unlock that door. So I went off and I started to look, and what they have is these very moment-to-moment landmarks. Okay? So, I've turned left down here, and I see the statue on my left. Alright, well now I'm going to go approach that statue. But as I get close to the statue, the space on the right starts to open up, and I see a cliffside facing the sea. And I'm like, oh, well now I want to go here. And it's these little tiny mini landmarks which just keep the player interested and wanting to go from here to there to here. So that's another thing, is having visually interesting landmarks laid out. I'm not on about big stuff like the weenies that you'd see in Disneyland, these tall statues. They're another thing. It's these micro ones which you only see when you make your way through the island, because it's a visual reward. And it keeps the player enticed and coming back, and also taking the player off the beaten track. So that's the fourth point, is these micro landmarks. Having them, you need to make sure that these are spaced out correctly though, because if you overwhelm the player, then they're not going to be interested and they won't bother looking at them because they're overcrowded. So that's one of the things you have to remember when doing these micro landmarks, is make sure that the spacing is good between them. Okay? Then we're going to go to now the big landmarks, the weenies. I'd like to know why Walt Disney came up with that name, weenies, but I'm getting sidetracked here. So if you don't know what a weenie is I'm going to use Disneyland as an example here. Now they have these weenies all around the park. As soon as you enter, you see the Magic Castle. And you can roughly see that Magic Castle from round about anywhere in the park. That's a weenie. It's these giant hero pieces, these giant landmarks, which the player can always see. And even if they can't see the direct path to it, they know that they can make their way towards it. Now, Naughty Dog are really one of the best users of this technique in the industry. If you remember playing Last of Us, when you were in, I believe it's Pittsburgh, it's where those... At the beginning of the level, you drive in and they jump and assault your car. So all the way through there, you're trying to make it to this bridge, and they always take you to a rooftop or a certain angle where you see that bridge in the distance. Now, you can't see the direct path to get there, but you can always see that, so you make your assumptions on, I need to go to the right, or I need to go straight on and I will eventually reach that landmark. So Rime uses this as well. They have these bigger landmarks, these towers or these big statues, and these are not only to increase exploration but to help orientate the player. So if they know their goal is there, then they figure out, oh, I've either missed it or it's back behind me. And it's these things, because they don't. What Rime does well with it is it doesn't have just one, like compared to Naughty Dog and in The Last of Us. They have multiple because, like I said, you need to find these 3 orbs. So each one of these orbs is hidden in these weenies. The player has the choice, and even when he goes to one of these weenies, he can see the other 2 around as well. Again, showing the player this is where they need to go next. So having these is fantastic. And in terms of exploration, compared to Last of Us, where The Last of Us was, we need to get Ellie to the fireflies, Rime's more open on, here they are, it's up to you how you tackle them, it's up to the player to decide which one to go to next. So that's something to think about as well, is having these landmarks, these main weenies, and the micro landmarks. Once you have these planned out, the main landmarks, then plan your micro landmarks around them to help to draw the player closer to the weenies or to draw them away for exploration. The next subject now is choices, and this is something that Rime does really well. Naughty Dog does it very well. Is they give the illusion of choice. So as I said earlier in the podcast, I mentioned that I had to go get 3 orbs, and one of the choices they offer is in the order that the player decides to go get these orbs to solve the puzzle, is that the player can choose, I'm going to go to the one on the left, or I'm going to go for the one that's straight on. It's that choice there that the players get. They get to decide how they want to solve these puzzles and which order, which again makes it feel like they have a say. The player can go and choose what they want to do. And that's a great thing for exploration, because in most of our day-to-day life, we choose what to do with the day. We choose which things we're going to spend our time on, or the people that we're going to spend our time with. So that's one of their choices. The next choice that they offer is how they get to these objectives. So, as I said, it's this hub world. And that doesn't mean that the path is straight to the objective. It has many twists and turns, and you can either go up some stairs that lead you in that direction, or you can climb up a cliffside, which again takes you in that general direction. So rewarding the player with that exploration and giving that sense of, oh, I'm going to go this way, and it encourages the player to sometimes come back on themselves to see, well, what was up those stairs, because I went up the cliffside last time. So having these choices on how you reach your goals is just as important as in how the player decides which goal to go after. So choice plays a big role in exploration, because like I said, when you're out there in the wilderness yourself, you can choose if you want to follow that main path or want to go and do your own adventure. So that's one of the big things there, is choice. Offer the player choice. The final point I want to make on this one is perspective itself. So in Rime, there's a lot of backtracking. Now, in level design, backtracking is a very controversial topic, depending on, maybe controversial's me dramatizing it, but people have a lot of opinions on backtracking, whether or not you should do it, how you should approach it, and where the player should be led. So my personal opinion on backtracking is that, well, if you're going to introduce the player into the same space that they were previously in or have previously visited before, that they should come in from a different angle or a different side. So that way when they enter the space, it still looks new, fresh, and exciting, rather than they just come in the way that they came in before, because it doesn't feel like it offers anything new. And when I was first playing Rime for the first hour or so, it does the thing that I don't like. You go back the way you came, and you come back the way that you entered as well. But after playing it for a little bit longer, I realised it was really clever on why they were doing this. So to give an example to help with this, at the first area, to get to one of these 3 orbs, you come down this cavern and it enters you into this beach. And when you enter the beach, you see a massive tower up on the left. And you're instantly drawn there as the player, as in, oh, okay, that's where I need to go. And you just go. I didn't spend much time on the beach because all I could see of the beach on the ground level was it just stretched out. There was a lot of sea, a lot of negative space that I, as the player, couldn't visit. So after making my way up through this tower, though, I turn around just to take a look at the beach because, again, the art style is fantastic. The vista and the view was stunning. And then I noticed just to the right of where I was stood was a cave that, again, I hadn't noticed until I'd reached that up that tower. And because I was backtracking on myself and coming back down because I got the orb up there, it revealed something new to me. My perspective of this area had now changed. So although I'm not a fan of that style of backtracking on, following your footsteps the way you came up, what they did though is because you're seeing that area from a different perspective, it shows hidden areas, new routes for the player. And this was super, super exciting and super smart as well. I was honestly blown away by this. And they do this in a few times. If you look at some of their areas, what they do is they make a path in the shape of a cross. And in the middle of the cross is generally a statue or a tree or something like that. And that's the main puzzle that you have to solve. You have to bring the statue kind of to life, or to bring the tree to its once glorious form. And you go into each of these 3 other paths. So to your left, straight on, or to your right. But once you do the puzzle in each area, when you come back on yourself, because you're coming in at a different angle, like I said earlier, the way that I like it, it's showing something different. Not as in, oh, it looks different because I've come here, because the layout is across, so there's no visual difference really. But you can now see something that you might not have noticed when you're going to the left, because when you come back out, you can see there is actually a hidden door here, or a crack in the wall to some sort of collectible. So again, it wasn't my biggest thing at first, but seeing how they use it by giving the player a chance to view the area that you've just been in from a whole new angle, it just opens up many options, and again makes the player aware of, okay, well, I didn't notice anything this time, but maybe when I come back there'll be something new here that I didn't notice before. And it's that sort of reusing that same space but offering something new that is fantastic. And it made me rethink on backtracking as a whole, because as I said, the team there at Tequila Works used it very, very well. And it, like I said, because you've seen something new, it encourages that exploration in your world. So another thing, I guess for me, I think this is going to be the final point before we wrap up this episode and you no longer hear this smooth jazz, is the I've probably said smooth jazz in every episode I've recorded thus far. Be a tagline. Back on point. So one of the things that people use for this, you see a lot in Ubisoft games and other open world games, is these collectibles. In Assassin's Creed 2, you have the feathers. There's audio logs and other things as a reward for exploring. Now, you can kind of have different stances on this. It is a reward, but sometimes it's not a big reward. For the feathers in Assassin's Creed 2, you have to collect, I think it was 100 to get the true reward. And in Rime, they have a similar thing. You have to collect 4 quadrants of a circle for you to unlock something like artwork or something like that. And again, this will appeal to certain kind of players, like completionists. But to me, these are sometimes the weakest things to encourage your exploration. It's got some nice motifs, and like I said, it will appeal to certain players. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be that they're looking for this object which plays into a bigger picture. It should be a reward in finding itself. So some great things to use are in Journey, when it's in the first area, once you start in the desert, once you just get up and you pass what seems to be this mass graveyard. If you go straight on, you will go to the next section where the puzzle is, to this giant door. But if you go slightly to your right in the desert, you find this mural which has, again, some more exposition, on the story of what's happened there. So it's these sort of things which I think are the better rewards, not these collectibles which play into something to unlock. It's something that actually ties in with your world. So when you're going to have something like that, just think about what you want. I'm not saying they're bad, that's just my opinion. I'm just saying that just really take the time to think, what does the player gain? If it's a nice JPEG or a cool audio log, that's nice, but think about what was important here to building your world as well. And again, going back to a previous point, make sure the exploration for it is exciting, because sometimes these rewards don't feel very rewarding. So have the reward in the exploration itself. So there we are. Those are my examples of how to increase exploration. But before we finish, let's just summarize on these points again. So first is having that open space to explore. Think about the emotion that you were trying to chase and how the space of your level reflects that emotion that you're trying to capture. Is exploration, have open spaces. If it's claustrophobia, have tight, squeeze near areas that the player goes from A to B. The next thing is exploration should be a reward in itself. So think about how it's not just about the end goal, but how the player moves through your spaces. Is it exciting? Is it fun? Is it tense? Like when Nathan Drake jumps for a ledge and it snaps under him. That sort of drama that makes the player feel excitement and, am I going to make this? And just enjoy moving through your space. And also working together with your eyes on making these spaces visually alluring and appealing. Next one is micro landmarks. So every time the player moves throughout the level, there might be every X seconds or X meters. It's going to be up to how you do the metrics for your game. But having these micro landmarks that attract the eye of the player, so they're always looking to go, oh, that's cool, but wait, what's that over there? So you lead the player through these little elements here. And working in tandem with this is the big weenies themselves. Always having something that the player can see to help orientate themselves and focus on to know where their goal is to go next. The next point is, how do you introduce players to your space? Just having a boring corridor leading to another room or to another corridor, it doesn't excite the player. It doesn't give a sense of emotion or even that feeling to go out and go see your world. So think about that, the contrast of bigger to smaller, to open to close. These sort of things, do the players come in from a high angle looking down, so they have to make their way down, or do they come in at the very bottom looking up, trying to get to that high point? Think about how you introduce the player to these spaces. Another one that is always important in level design is choices. Giving the illusion of choice on how they move through this space, that there is more than just one option to get to that area. So that way players might backtrack on themselves to wonder, oh, well, what is on the other path that I didn't take previously? And that choice on how to solve these puzzles, there's always great things with choice there, because the player feels smart, intelligent, and they're just more engaged rather than being told what to do. So choices is always good, not just for exploration, but just in general. The next one, which Rime does amazing, is perspective. Is on how you facing this same area from a different angle, from a different perspective, can offer a reward in itself, can offer a new path, a new route, or showing the player a collectible or something for them to interact with. So always think about the perspective of your space and how coming at a different angle or looking at your space from a different angle can offer something new and exciting. And the final one is collectibles. Again, that's up to you and what you're after. It's something that's quite gamey but can be fun as well. Just make sure the collectible is exciting. If you're going to do a collectible, in my opinion, again, I'm just going to expand on this one, is make sure there's some sort of gameplay attached to it, whether it is a traversal challenge to get there, or maybe when you get there, you have to do something to actually unlock the collectible. And there we have it, guys. Thank you for joining me, your host, Max Pez, at the Level Design Lobby, and listening to how to increase exploration in your levels. I hope you found this useful. If you have any examples of other games or other techniques that you think really help increase them, please share them with me and tweet at me at MaxPez. If you want to see more of my work, then you can go visit maxpez.com. But if you really want to help support me and keep the Level Design Lobby going, then please subscribe. You know, I really want to make sure that I'm helping you and that I'm giving you some great content. If you have a topic for me to talk about, then yeah, just tweet at me. So, thank you very much, guys. I hope you've all learned something today and you've had a great time listening to me talk about Rime. And yeah, cheers, guys. Take it easy, and until next time, see you later.